Listen, we are about to do this video in one take because who's about to spend all day editing? Not me. So welcome. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Melanie. On this channel, I talk about simple and intentional living. I also talk about how to build a career of your dreams, a business of your dreams. I also talk about productivity, wellness, faith, sprinkled in, and yeah, all the things. So subscribe and join the ride. Today, I'm going to talk about my 2025 ins and outs. I was supposed to record and post this video up about 2 weeks ago, but life is lifing already, and it is only January 15th. Like, wow. But y'all are not going to get me. I'm not about to hustle and bustle. I am easing into the new year. And so I hope that you are too. Everything does not have to be done January 1st. Everything does not have to be done in January. Everything does not have to be done in Q1. There are 365 days in the year for a reason. So grab your tea, let's take a beat, and let's talk about some of the things that we are going to start and stop in 2025. Also, a quick disclaimer is that these are going to be my 2025 ins and outs for quarter one. So I no longer plan for the entire year. I usually only plan by 12 weeks, utilizing the 12-week year. And so these are the ins and outs for just Q1 of 2025. Now, number one is going to be cutting out alcohol completely, or at least like 98% of my alcohol intake. And so again, this is for quarter one for several reasons. So it is something that God convicted me about towards the end of last year. Now, listen, this is not a debate for the saints and the theologians in the comments below. I think that everyone should follow their personal convictions. That is what the Bible says. I'm not here to debate about right versus wrong and drunkenness versus moderation. Listen, say that for your own theologian, for your own time with the Lord. But I will say that God convicted me about it. My personal conviction is I don't think that there's anything wrong with consuming alcohol in moderation, but it is something that God told me to cut out at the beginning of this year. So that is what I am doing in obedience. And I can see why. Because, I work very hard, and I would find myself, after a long day of work and coaching clients and working on content, I just be like real quick, like, let me get a glass of wine, have a little glass of wine to unwind, or, I'm going to an event and it's like, let me calm my nerves. I got social anxiety sometimes, let me calm my nerves and have a little glass of wine before I go. And I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that, but I do feel like God was like, I want you, if you're anxious about an event, I need you to pray about it before like taking a glass of wine to the head. You know what I mean? Or, I probably shouldn't say this on here. I'm being real honest and transparent in 2025, but he would say like, come and pray to me first if you are anxious about something, and that is biblical. Or like, have healthier ways to unwind. Like instead of just grabbing a glass of wine to unwind after a long day, like read a book. Read a book, watch a little TV, come pray, journal about it. And so I felt like God was telling me just to really have healthier ways to unwind so that it doesn't become a problem, so that you can like maintain balance and only do it, socially or in moderation. And so that's something that I've really been working towards. And I will say, just cutting it out these last few weeks, my mind has been a lot clearer. Like my sleep has actually been a lot better. Like I can see definitely why a lot of people are starting to cut it out altogether. And not just like faith, mental health, unwinding, but also physical health reasons too. Like they came out that, you're probably about to hear my refrigerator in a minute. When I tell y'all I am not editing this video. So if you hear background noise, sorry. But also the physical health aspect too. Like they came out and said that, they're putting warning labels now for cancer. And I've already had my second cancer scare within the last 2 years. I talked about this on my 2024 recap, but I had to have a biopsy towards the very end of last year. Thankfully, everything came back clear. But being that it was the second time around, like I am extremely intentional about my health right now. And so that's another reason too. So again, my personal conviction is that there's nothing wrong with doing it in moderation, but I think that God was calling me to abstain from it for a period of time, again, so that I could keep it in moderation and not like use it, not it become a coping mechanism, if that makes sense. And, again, using it for liquid courage, like come to God, like your personality is enough. And I feel like, again, that's why I feel like I was saying, like your personality is enough. You don't need any liquid courage, to make yourself more whatever, and so that's something that I am abstaining from, if I'm being very transparent, for quarter one. Now, number two, y'all getting all the tea today if you're watching this video. Number two is going to be decentering men and prioritizing intentional relationships of all kind. I am at a stage in my life where I don't need no more trauma incidents. I don't need nobody sending me to therapy. You know, I have had enough lessons learned in the area of relationships over the past 2 years. I don't need no more lessons. I'm just gonna chill out until the Lord sends me my person. That's kind of the space that I'm in now, specific to like romantic relationships. And again, I think that I'm just in a place of surrender in general. Like, I'm genuinely okay. Like, I've learned how to have so much gratitude for where I am in life, and I have a beautiful life. Like, of course, everything's not perfect. No one's life is perfect, but my life is good, you know. And as I have done all the work on myself for my faith, for my mental health, and being in heavy therapy last year, I've really come to a place where I'm pretty secure in myself, meaning like I'm okay. Like, I'm not waiting for anyone to come and save me because I've already been saved. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not waiting on anyone to come in and complete the day or help me with my finances. Like, I've built a life on my own, you know. And I saw a video from Morgan the Bomb. I'll link her podcast below. I really like it, but she's like this black tech entrepreneur. I think she does Blavity and all the different things in Afro tech. And she talked about like how she actually met her husband when she had already built up pretty much life on her own. It was a really good episode. So I encourage all professional women to go watch it. I'll link it below again. But anyway, I feel like I'm in that place where I have a really full life. You know, everything is not perfect, and I have dealt with a lot of losses and friendship losses, and but overall I'm okay. And I don't need anyone coming and disrupting my peace, if that makes sense. And so, am I open to dating? Sure. But it has to make sense, and it has to add my life and not subtract, because I find myself, because I do love very hard, because I am a giver, when I do get into situations or relationships, like, I'm giving of a lot and it is not being returned. And I think before, when I was maybe not as secure, like I was, just happy to have some water. Just, what the 80 say in Love is Blind? Like, you see the red flags and you paint your fingernails red to match. Like that was me, sis. I was a paint your fingernails red type of girl, but we're not doing that in 2025. I do not disrupt my peace. At the first sight of you disrupting my peace, you are gone. Do you hear me? And so I just have better discernment. I have a lot more, I guess just confidence in myself and just gratitude for where I am in life. And if I do believe that it is going to happen, I do believe that all the things that I've been through, it will be a testimony, of God's goodness and grace and how he restored, that area of my life. But in the interim, listen, don't cause me no problems, okay? I don't need no more trauma stories, no more drama stories. And, I think with dating, I'm getting off on a tangent, but I do think with dating, like, I think it's also important to note that, like, not every dating situation has to end in trauma. Like, it's okay to just amicably say, like, this isn't working, so let's just move on amicably. So that's why I say I am open to it, and it's not like I'm holding it with, like, this heavy hand of like I guess I just don't hold as much weight to it as I did before. And so yeah, if it happens, it happens. If it don't, child, at least I got my peace and my sanity intact, so yeah, that's number 2. So number 3 kind of goes in hand with number 2, but that's also just being more intentional with my friendships. I dealt with a lot of friendship loss last year. I lost a lot of friends last year, and some of it was them, some of it was me, some of it was just life and circumstances. And I'll probably do a whole nother video on that when God gives me the grace to do so. But I do realize that I'm in a stage kind of in that same vein of maintaining my peace. Like, I'm not necessarily in a stage of my life where I just need to have friends just to have them, or be in groups just to say that I have people around me, or just, be in these groups or just have friends in general just to have someone to do things with. Like, I'm in a stage where I do need people that are actually going to do life with me, people that I can trust, and I have to be a good friend and communicate in healthier ways and be able to set boundaries, be able to stand up for myself in healthier ways. And so, yeah, that's another thing that I'm prioritizing, is just being more intentional about the areas that I need to improve when it comes to friendships, and being more intentional about what I require as being my friend. And so that's another thing that I'm going to work on in 2025. Another one on a lighter note is cooking at home. Let me tell you something. I told y'all this on my 2024 top tech and tools video, where I talked about how I use Monarch to manage my budget. And like I said in that video, when I saw how much money that I spend on eating out, I wanted to fight myself. I wanted to put myself in the corner and say, do not come out until you have learned your lesson. And yeah, it was ridiculous. I was spending like hundreds of dollars a month, 30 days on eating out. Like, absolutely unacceptable. Why? You know how to cook too. You know what I mean? Like, it just don't make sense. So I am like really being intentional about cooking at home this year, and just utilizing all those TikTok recipes that I have saved and 5,000 collections, actually putting them to work and just being more intentional. So I am really big on solo dating. I got my cards here, so I'll show y'all. But my solo dates be expensive restaurants twice a week for no reason. And so I actually found these cards on TikTok. Hold on, let me put my tea down. That's gonna waste on this white blanket. But anyway, I got these cards from TikTok. I will link them below. But I really like this like solo card date pile because I don't know if you can see it, but they have like, it has like a key. Child, you can see this. It has a key of like home version. So these are categorized by home, out and about. You get to choose whether or not you want to, or you get to choose whether your own solo date, and then home or out. You can adapt it according to your mood. And it has like, you can decide how much you want to spend. So if you don't want to spend any money, or if you got a lot of money to spend on your solo date. And so I am really big on doing a solo date a week, but again, that don't mean you got to drop a stat every time you take yourself out, you know what I mean? So I am going to utilize kind of the more at-home solo date card options here so that I can save more money, because we got things to do in 2025 except for eating oysters every week at CNS Happy Ice, CNS Oyster Bar, spending $100. So in is cooking at home, out is eating out for absolutely no reason. So number 3 is going to be reading and creating versus scrolling and consuming. And so I realized like God convicted me again about like, before you create what I've told you to create for the people that I've called you to steward, you have a tendency to go and watch what I'm calling everybody else to do. And like, that's not what I want you to focus on. Now, granted, I was a little bit better with my content, but if I'm just taking accountability, and the timestamps on my YouTube can clearly get the picture that I was not as consistent last year. And so that's why I'm really challenging myself to kind of do these 2 videos a month. Sorry, 2 videos a week for Q1 at least, just to kind of challenge myself. Like, it really doesn't take all that. You don't have to overthink it. Like, you don't have to do all this crazy editing, because you're not an editing expert anyway, sis. So let's just put them out there and see what happens, And so that's kind of where I am kind of falling, if you will, for Q1. And so kind of what that boundary looks like is, I'm going to create what I need to create for the people that God has called me to before consuming what God has called other people to do. Another way of doing this is like reading versus scrolling. So again, instead of just watching what everyone else is doing and comparing, or just in general, just wasting time scrolling, making sure that I'm reading and stewarding my creativity by reading more fiction, And so that's something that I'm going to do in 2025. Let's see, what else do I have here? An intentional evening routine. So all of this kind of goes hand in hand, like the not drinking, having healthier ways to unwind at the end of the night, like reading fiction. That's a way that I have actually been unwinding at night, is by reading fiction. But so let me actually walk y'all through my entire evening routine, because it actually has been working. Let me take a sip of tea. Quick tea sip break. I hope y'all are enjoying this. This is like a very kind of not really scripted video. So anyway, so my intentional evening routine currently is, I set very strong boundaries to end my workday, my 9 to 5 workday at 5 p.m. And that is very new to me, because I was the type of person that was like, would respond to pings at 7 p.m. or I'm sending emails at 8 p.m., and my thought was like, oh, well, let me just do it now so I don't have to do it tomorrow. But I've realized like, when I just do a little email here, a little ping here, or I don't have any type of boundaries with my evening, then it affects my quality of sleep, which then affects my productivity the next day. And so what I do now is I have very strict work boundaries from 9 to 5. I'm not responding to anything after 5 p.m. Because essentially it doesn't really help with your productivity. Like, you're still gonna be, it's not gonna get done. Like, you're responding to emails at 8 p.m. but no one else is, you know what I mean? And so I've set that strong boundary now to stop work at 5 p.m. Then from 5 to 6 p.m. I am like intentionally like decompressing from work. And how that looks like for me is I will go on a walk, or maybe I will, watch like a quick show on Netflix or something, just something that doesn't require anything with my brain, so that I can intentionally shut off from work. Then from 6 to 8 p.m., that's where like I call it like my passion time. So either I will either be working on coaching client calls, or I'll be working on content, or like one of my hobbies that I have for 2025, whether that's creative writing, or some of the things that I'm trying to incorporate to have more balance. And so from 6 to 8, like, that's my passion time. And then again, that's a hard stop at 8 o'clock. So after 8 o'clock, I am intentionally shutting off my brain. So I am going to take a shower, a nice hot shower, to kind of decompress. I'm doing my skincare routine. I'm going to have a very light dinner, so again, I don't have any issues with sleeping and getting up at the middle of the night. Have a light dinner, just a little bit of sip of water, so I'm not getting up and having to go to the bathroom. So I'm very intentional about my evening routine now. So another thing that I will do, and I'll do a whole other video on my evening routine, but another thing that I do is I do like a brain dump in day one. So I do like a daily recap of all the things that I've done for the day, kind of what's still on my mind, again with the goal to get everything in my brain out. And then after that, I usually will, make sure I have my day planned out, so I'm not up at night thinking about it. For the next day, rather, I'll plan out the next day. And then I will either watch, so I try not to watch TV. I try to read. So we will usually try to read like a fiction book. So again, I'm not doing nonfiction or personal development or anything that's going to keep my brain going, or, being introspective. Like, I just want to go to sleep. So I usually will read like a fiction book. I'll pop in my magnesium, that kind of helps me relax. And then I'll only go into that bedroom when it is time to go to bed. The lights are already off by that point. That's another thing. I start dimming down the lights at 8 p.m. and I'm in the bed by 10, and it just helps so much with my sleep, because I used to get up at like 2 a.m. and not be able to go back to sleep. And then I'm like exhausted, literally in tears from exhaustion the next day. But this has really helped me like get a solid 7-8 hours of sleep. And so yeah, I'll do a whole nother video, but that's kind of how I break down my evening routine so that I can get better sleep and be more productive in the day. Another thing that's kind of an in and out is having an intentional Sabbath day. So kind of in the same vein, like how I'm actually structuring my weeks now is that my week ends on Saturday and my week starts on Sunday. So I used to kind of like just take it easy on Sunday and then like go full force on Monday. But I found that when I did that, I would be burnt out by Wednesday because I'm going so fast. But like taking like half the day on my Sunday evenings to maybe like go ahead and plan out the week and go ahead and get like the little small things out the way. So if I know I'm going to shoot content, like go ahead and plan that out so you can know what you're doing. Or like go ahead and plan out like what you're going to be doing for work or what your priorities will be, again, so that you kind of ease into the week. So that way Monday you kind of already have a plan in place and you're just kind of going according to the schedule that you've already set on Sunday, versus just kind of like forgetting all about everything on Sunday and then waking up at Monday and you're kind of scatterbrained about what to do. And so I say that because now that I have like my Sunday in place and I try to make my Sundays productive, I have a very hard stop now on Fridays at 5 p.m. Like whatever doesn't get done Friday evenings, like that's it, because Saturdays now are my strict Sabbath days. So Saturdays, like you'll see me post videos, but these have already been scheduled, right? And so Saturdays I will be very intentional about sleeping in, about maybe going for a light walk, but those are going to be my times to do my solo date, to just kind of lounge around and literally force myself to rest. Like if you don't have intentional rest days or intentional ways to unwind, you will keep going and going and going and going, and you will be burnt out before the quarter is even out. And so forcing myself to have a Sabbath day on Saturday has really been helping me, be more productive during the week, be more intentional about how I spend my time during the week, and then I have that full day to recover before I go into the next week, if that makes sense. So what's in is having mandatory Sabbath and rest days, having intentional evening routines, and what is out is just being all over the place. At this point, I have no idea what number we are on, but the next in and out is going to be, what's in is being intentional about being present by journaling my day, like throughout the day. And so I talked a little bit about my evening routine and how I like recap my day using the Day One app. And I have found that it has really helped me with being present, because it forces me to think about what's going on in the day versus just like going off autopilot or like being anxious about the future, beating yourself out about what happened in the past or what you haven't gotten done or whatever. Like it forces you to stay present. So what that has looked like for me is like even after my calls, like I'll just jot down like how I felt through that call. And I think it could probably be considered mindfulness too. So like throughout the day, throughout work, I'm like, jotting down the little wins that I'm having on my calls or with my projects, or the little things that I'm thinking about. If something is like, giving me anxiety, like I journal about it real quick, to kind of process what's going on. Or, if I get a nice email, or if I get a testimonial from a client, like instead of just saying, oh, thank you, sis, and moving on, like, no, documenting it. And like, it's forcing me to be present, because I think a lot of times when we have so many things going on, like we're just going. And then we get to the end of the year and we're like, we did nothing. Like, no, you are doing a lot. You're just not taking the time to document what God is doing. Like, God is answering your prayers every single day in the small ways that you are bypassing. At least that's what it was for me. And so like forcing myself just to jot down kind of like what's going on throughout the day, and like, taking the time to like take pictures of, emails that I get, or take pictures of, a pretty flower as I'm taking a walk, like forces me to be present in the moment. And so that's something that is in for me this year by, again, day one journaling, which I really like. I'll probably do a whole nother video on like the day one app, because I really, really like it. But of course you can do this through scrapbooking. You can do this through writing it down. Like I do my morning pages in GoodNotes on my iPad. So whatever way works for you. But I really do personally feel that like 2025 is going to be very monumental for a lot of us, and a lot of things that we have been putting, our efforts towards and maybe not seeing much of a return. Like I really feel like for those of us that have really been putting that work in private, or have been hidden, that God is really going to show himself to us this year. And so I think that we had to literally document everything. And I felt like God was like, write it all down, like every single day. So that's something that I am focusing on in 2025. So this last thing kind of goes hand in hand, and I really want to challenge all of us to do this, is to allow play in our lives again. And I think by doing this, we will really be able to see our years transform. I know we got all the vision boards, the things that we want to accomplish. We got the prayer boards. We got the vision bingo cards that y'all doing now. I need to make me a bingo card. But we are doing all the things. We have so many things that we want to accomplish. And I would just say, like, allowing yourself to play. And when I say play, I mean like being able to do things that have no dollar tag to it, like being able to do things that no one's going to pat you on the back for, like doing things that you genuinely enjoy. I feel like having time to play almost like a child gives you that childlike faith, because it forces you to trust God, like with the little that you have. Meaning like, okay, I'm going to work as hard as I can throughout the week. Like I'm going to, put up these videos. I'm going to show up the best way I can at work. I'm going to show up the best way that I can for other people, and show up better for my friends, and, all the things that we talked about today. And at the same time, like I am human and there's only so much that I can do. And so where I am weak, I have to allow him to be strong. And so instead of like trying to do it all and just burn myself out and then be frustrated because I can't do it all, I am going to be very intentional about doing what I can, embracing play, embracing hobbies, having balance as an act of faith that like I'm going to do what I can, and I trust God with the rest, if that makes sense. And so I really encourage all of us to find some type of way to cultivate balance and play in our lives. And with that, you know what I'm gonna do? This is impromptu. I'm gonna pick a solo day card for all of us for the next week. Let's pick one here. You pick. And this is one way that we can cultivate play for the next week. This says chill game night. This says embrace a relaxing game night filled with your favorite low-key activities, whether it's tackling Sudoku or crosswords, diving into PC games, or assembling a jigsaw puzzle. It's all about unwinding and enjoying some downtime. Look at God. All right, you got your marching order. So tonight or throughout this next week, whenever you're watching this, I want you to have a chill game night, whether that's with a friend or a loved one or a solo night. Again, allow yourself to play. How did I just pick this card? Look at God. Anyway, so that will conclude this video. Let me know what are your 2025 ins and outs in the comments below. And I hope that y'all like these like chill videos. I'm still going to do vlogs and stuff. And then on Tuesdays, so how I want this YouTube schedule, let me back up, is I want Tuesdays to be like more the career, business, productivity things, to help us balance all the things. And then I want these Saturday videos to kind of be more cozy, more vlog style, more lifestyle, giving a real life story of how I'm balancing it all, or how I am miserably failing and it being okay. And so make sure that you subscribe and join the ride, because I have a lot of exciting things hopefully planned for the new year, God willing. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what your 2025 ins and outs are, and I will see y'all on the next video. Bye, y'all.